So if you want to find the antidote to the New World Order, I would call it God's original order. Dr. Zelenko became a household name when he developed his world-famous Zelenko protocol. To make sure that everybody had access to his immune-boosting formula, he created Z-Stack, my family's immune-boosting supplement of choice. Along with Z-Detox, Z-Flu, and Z-Shield, Z-Stack has helped countless families stay healthy and protected. With every purchase of Dr. Zelenko's products, you also support the Zelenko Freedom Foundation in their tireless work to promote and reinstate medical freedom for all. Click the link down below, use coupon code INSPIRE to save, and protect your family today. Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, and hitting the notifications button so you'll get notified about new videos as they are released. In recent conversations, privately and some public conversations, interviews, all over the place, one question has been really appearing more and more, and I love that this question is coming up. A lot of people are beginning to ask, what will the future actually look like? They ask it in a way that is co-creative, so they're asking, how will we create the future? What will it be like? And this tells me that we're entering a new phase of our evolution, our consciousness, because we're finally beginning to ask the right question. And I want to go a little bit into what my perspective is on that answer, what I believe the future will look like, because it's the future we are co-creating, and how that future measures up to the artificial dystopian future that is currently being pushed on humanity. And I will begin with that vision because it will make much more sense if we start here. So the current vision is what a lot of people know as the New World Order, right? And this has been talked about so often. It's not a conspiracy. Politicians, prime ministers, presidents, business leaders, cultural leaders, religious leaders, they've all said this for decades. And this New World Order basically says that there will be a centralized command, a centralized government that will more or less dictate everything that will happen on Earth. Now, there will be zones all over Earth, a few zones that will then take these dictates, take these mandates from the centralized government and implement them in their zones. This rule will be signified by a common currency. It will be signified by a common digital system. It will be signified by a common health certificate, a digital health certificate. And it will be ruled by AI. That's their vision at any rate. We've talked about this at length. And one of the things that this vision also includes is, and as many leaders have said, is it will require to work a significant reduction in the population, right? They have been saying this. The Georgia Guidestones used to say keep the population under 500 million. The exact number is probably unknown to us, but I would say it's probably between 500 million and 1 billion people on Earth. These are the broad strokes. This is, in my view, a very dystopian future. It is absolutely controlled, right? The hallmarks of this future is that it is not a voluntary evolution, a voluntary decision, a voluntary development, but it is something that is being pushed on humanity, and humanity is being forced into it. In my view and in my co-creative vision, the future truly will look like the very, very distant path. Because after all my studies, after all my research, after going into this and living with this, walking with this, researching this for decades now, I am 100% certain that we used to live in a far, far distant time in a very beautiful and absolutely God and nature-centric culture that was peaceful. We used to be of one language, one tongue. We used to live, very harmoniously and peacefully together, and this culture used to be all over the world. So I'm not saying everybody was exactly the same, or every family, every clan was exactly the same, but we had one common culture that was based on the eternal truths and laws of the universe, and that was based in a harmonious relationship with each other, with God, and with nature. So that's my belief, right? And I believe that we're currently co-creating the potential for such a future. So, as ironic as it might sound to you today, in the distant future, I see when we will have gone through this consciousness evolution, through this ascension of frequency and vibration, when we will have really mastered this great awakening fully, in a distant future, I believe we will see a world that truly will have no borders anymore, where slowly but surely we will move back to one common tongue and to one common culture, to the common truths and laws. Now this, to a lot of people, sounds a lot like the globalists' vision, but it couldn't be further from it. They are dreaming of a control system that keeps humanity in a state of peasants, of servants, of slaves, and there's a small elite that's ruling over them. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about self-governing families and clans that have a common structure, but are absolutely self-reliant and absolutely personally responsible for everything that's happening in their lives. So this I see as the distant future. It's an ideal, but I believe we must strive for that ideal. I believe this is the God-prescribed ideal, the Creator-prescribed ideal, simply because this is what nature dictates to us if we, as the most conscious species in nature, realize our role in it. So in that, the distant future, I believe, will look like that. I believe that's what we are able and absolutely capable of co-creating. In the short term, we will have to, and hear me out on this one, in the short term, we will have to honor our boundaries and honor our borders even more. Because this development cannot happen if it is consistently disturbed. Now, many cultures are moving towards this in their internal development. And we have seen this in prophecies among the American Indians and other indigenous tribes that have kept the oral traditions alive and passed on the wisdom and knowledge through the generations. They say the same thing. But I believe what this means for us is that we currently need to keep the structure of nations and re-implement the structure of clans and families, and really be quite strict about who we allow into the sphere of influence. I believe this is very, very important. This is what, in a distant past, screwed everything up. You cannot simply open the floodgates and allow for your development, your culture, to be consistently disturbed. So that's why I am a proponent to live in a harmonious friendship with other nations, to not preach superiority based on race, based on religion, based on nationality. That to me is absolutely the wrong path. But celebrate the cultural development within your culture, within your nation, and help each other to go back to the truthful roots of who we are as spiritual beings having this human experience. I believe that will be the only way how eventually we can help each other, even among nations, and then later on see that there might not be any need anymore to separate with borders, to separate with these ideas. We're not quite there yet. Right now, the tearing down of borders and the uncontrolled flow and mixing of cultures way too fast, where there's no time for assimilation, where there's no time for communication, where there's no time for really exploring each other and getting to know each other. It is harmful, it is creating division, it is creating conflict, it is creating violence, and that's being done on purpose. We're being pushed in that direction on purpose. And what I'm saying is that we need to put a stop to it. That's why in the very 3D realm, we support everybody who will uphold a firm but fair and humane border policy that will look at who is being allowed into any given nation. I think this is important, so the development, the cultural, spiritual, evolutional development will not be disturbed. It is also the antidote currently to what this cabal is pushing on us, the globalist agenda is pushing on us. So this might be a little bit of a different perspective than you usually get, but this is where I see it. So to recap, I see that we will return to, for example, America circa 1960 or 1940 or 1970. We will not return to any of those standards. I believe we're moving towards a new understanding of the old ways of living, the truly old ways of living. I'm talking eons. I'm talking unimaginable numbers of years if you want to use this time frame. But we will return to the most highly developed culture, and there will be no external artificial technology needed. This is something people can't imagine right now, but no, we won't need any computers, any internet, we won't need AI, we won't need even cars or planes or any of that. We will return to the natural ways of living, and yet we will have more freedom, more prosperity, we will have more creativity, joy, arts, more of everything than we're having right now, but we won't need to rely on these artificial structures. So this is where I think we're really in the long run moving into, and we're of course talking about generations. We're not talking about years. And perhaps this is for everyone who feels impatient. There will be many victories, partial victories, small victories, bigger victories along the way. We will have these significant wins along the way. We will have some losses along the way, but we will move into this direction. And this is where the human family will move into. And right now, we need to educate ourselves on that again, each other, and then make sure that we preserve and expand that body of knowledge and wisdom and pass it on to the next generations. And remember the old traditions of how it was done and how knowledge was kept alive over unimaginable periods of time. That's what we need to return to. And so the interesting thing is that people will say, well, that sounds a lot like this New World Order. And I say, no, it's actually the original order, God's original order. So if you want to find the antidote to the New World Order, I would call it God's original order. All right, well, thank you so much for tuning in. We will continue this conversation because in this, there are so many other elements that we need to look at. And so we will return to this topic and expand in many different directions. So thank you again. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll be back with you again very, very soon. Would you like to get access to exclusive content as well as being part of a community of like-minded people posting, sharing, and connecting on a deeper level? Come join the Inspired community on Locals, where we share more intimately and privately and do our Coffee and Truth live streams as well as our Honey Talks show, the only Inspired show with Christine Nolan. The Inspired community is absolutely uncensored and unfiltered, a place for truth, authenticity, and freedom. Join us now at inspired.locals.com or click on a link in the video description.